Welcome back to your school. In this video, we're going to cover expense management, including expense types, accounting integration, expense entry, budgeting, payment tracking, supporting documents, and operational financial control. This module is extremely important because schools spend money every day on operations such as fuel, salaries, maintenance, internet, stationery, and many other operational costs. Well-organized expense management improves accountability, budgeting, audit readiness, reporting, and financial decision making. So, to begin with, go to finance section. You will see expenses and expense types. First, we are going to speak about expense types. So expense types help school categorize and organize operational spending. They define how expenses are grouped, reported, and posted into accounting. Good expense categorization improves financial reporting, budgeting, and departmental analysis, and also audit tracking. Okay, this is the expenses list. The expense types list or expense categories. Here we have preloaded examples that are mostly used by a school. This include electricity, fuel. No, we have not added fuel. Okay. Internet, repairs, salaries, or stationery. Salaries, we are not going to use expenses. We are going to use the payroll module. But if you don't want to use the payroll module, then you have to add an expense type called salaries. So in order to add a new expense type, you're going to click this new tab button. The name. This is the visible expense category name used throughout the system. So we are going to call it fuel. The description helps explain the purpose of the expense category. Now we've got the default accounting section. So this determines which general ledger expense account receives postings from this expense type. For example, we could have a fuel expense account, or a repairs expense account, or an internet expense account. In this case, this is fuel, so we need a fuel expense account. Okay, we're going to search. We have not yet added a fuel expense account, so we can navigate to chart of accounts, and then we can see that expenses generally range from 5,000 to 5,900. So I'm going to choose I'm going to create a chart of account for fuel. This is an expense. I can call it a prepaid expense. Or you could just use this general expense account. No parent, we're going to call it fuel. And the GL code, we're just going to call it 5001. We're going to allow manual entries. Then we create our expense account. The code has already been taken, so we need to use another GL code. Okay, so 5001 was being used as salaries, non-teaching staff, so we cannot use it. Okay, let's go back to expense types. Call this fuel. Record all fuel expenses. Then we are going to give it fuel. Then we are going to be crediting the cash at bank. So you see what happened here. I had to go back and create a chart of account. So this explains why accounting setup is important before operational finance begins. So correct account mapping improves income statements, audit readiness, department analysis, and budget tracking, like I said before. The active status controls whether the expense type can currently be used when recording expenses. Let's create this. Now we have fuel here. So schools should create clear and meaningful expense categories, which makes reports easier to understand later. Once saved, the expense type becomes available for expense entry and operational finance tracking. So now we go to expenses. Now that expense types are configured, we can begin recording actual expenses. An expense entry records money spent by the school, which creates both uh, operational records and accounting transactions. So let's record an expense. The expense type is required, so we're going to use this field. The expense date was today. Today is automatically selected. The amount, we spent $30. The currency is USD. You can change to ZIG. If you can also adjust the exchange rate if the permissions permit that. So ours was in US dollar. Now you can add the description if you want. It's not mandatory. It just provides additional details about the expense transaction. Like we can say fuel for the trip. Right. If we have already created a budget, then you can see the budget impact preview here. So far, we have not used this expense type in our budgeting, so we are not going to see anything. So you see now the accounting details. It has automatically selected the chart of accounts that we set up in the expense type before. Okay. So now you can choose recurrence. You can check here if you want this expense to automatically recur. Like you can say I want it to recur every 1 days or every 2 days. But in this case, we are not going to set a recurring expense.